Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Tristan White, author of Culture is Everything, the story and system of a startup that became Australia's best place to work. Tristan, welcome to the show.
Paul, fantastic to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready to go.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Paul, this is a wonderful question, and because it's hard. It's hard. Not everyone, a lot of people have got an idea of writing a book and publishing a book. Probably the first piece of advice that I would give, or experience share I would give to anyone, is to keep going. Because it's hard. There's Seth Godin talks about the dip. The dip is the hard part of any particular project, and there are so many books out there that are half written, that are half created, that have got stuck in the dip. So I would really encourage everyone to keep going. You've got a voice, you've got an experience to share, you've got an opportunity to publish a wonderful piece of content. But wherever you're up to, whether it's idea, whether it's 3/4 completed draft, whether it's final draft, keep going is my suggestion and a piece of advice for anyone who's currently writing their book.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Yeah, so Paul, I think one of the hardest parts for me was deciding on who to write the book for. And so there are so many options about self-publishing, hybrid publishing, traditional publishing, and all those different models have got different ways of getting a book written and also getting a book published. And so I reckon deciding on which of those, they're the three that I see as options to go for. And then once you're clear on that, deciding on the audience. And I think it's interesting, Paul, that my book, Culture is Everything, which is my first book, was published in May of 2017. And it was a multi-year project before that became published. But Paul, now almost 2 years on since publishing, I've been thinking more and more about that book that I've written and what worked and what didn't work. And you know what, Paul, I really don't think I nailed the audience as to who I was writing for and whether I was communicating the right stories, the right language, and the right worldview to that particular person. So I think it's important that we realize that there is a process of getting published. And there's so many decisions and hard parts about that, but then there's a real opportunity to also review and refine. And geez, Paul, I wish I'd had a moment to think about this audience a bit deeper before I did get the hard part of being published. I did choose the hybrid model, by the way, of getting published for my book. Culture is Everything.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things too is finding the right fit. I know we were talking before this show about utilizing hybrid publishing, and I was talking about with our company and what we do with hybrid publishing as well. But one of the other things too is just getting really clear on who your market is. So if you're writing a business book, obviously you want to target business or small businesses or medium range businesses. If you're doing a travel book, you want to target people who like to travel to certain locales. And same thing of motivation. If you're doing a book on motivation or on leadership, that you want to really target that towards people that are seeking that and then marketing correctly towards them.
Entirely, Paul, entirely. And you know what, man? I feel like I wrote the book for a previous version of myself, and that is a scale-up entrepreneur who was struggling with how to build a strong culture in their team. And I think it's a wonderful idea that I did want to share that experience and share it to a previous version of myself. However, there's not that many people that are in that exact spot that I was. So really being clear on the audience is a critical part of something that I didn't get right the first time around.
Well, the nice thing is you always have a second chance, or second editions, or future books that you have going out. So the nice thing is you always get the opportunity for that redo in the future potentially.
Entirely, entirely, and that's the beauty of creating content is you can create it and you can refine and you can reship. But the important bit is getting it out there in the first place, I reckon, Paul.
Absolutely. And speaking of getting that book out there, let's talk a little bit about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that worked well.
So launching the book is an interesting was a challenge for me, Paul, and I suspect it's a challenge for many people. But why I say that is because my book was partly based upon the experience of growing my healthcare business, the business that I'd started more than a decade earlier called the Physio Co. And the book told many stories of the startup journey inside the Physio Co. So I was very keen to include my workmates and the people that had helped to create the story in the launch. By the same token, there were many family and friends of mine who had supported me and supported the book, and so I wanted to include them as well. And then I had a blog and a newsletter which had readers from all parts of the globe who were following and listening to the message of how to create a better place to work. And I just couldn't figure out how I was going to create a launch to satisfy these people. Was I going to have multiple launches? Was it going to be at our workplace? Was it going to be at a bookstore? Where was it going to be? And Paul, what I decided on was as simple as a Facebook Live book launch. And so I published about 2 weeks in advance that there was going to be a Facebook Live book launch happening. And then I invited people to the event. I did multiple videos leading up to it on my personal page, on my business page. Email newsletters went out. There was all sorts of pre-promotion that happened. But then, Paul, from a spare room at our house, I did a Facebook Live launch, if you will. I was live for more than an hour, and there were hundreds of people who showed up, supported it, asked questions, and we actually had sort of a Q&A as to the content of the book to dive people into what it was about, the story of creating it, the story of the book, and what were the benefits of reading and buying the book. And throughout this Q&A, there was a real focus or a real intent from me to spread the word, but I was asking my closest followers and closest people in my community to help me to buy a copy to get it into the Amazon bestseller status, which is what we did achieve to get that Amazon bestseller sort of kudos, I guess you'd say, Paul, which for me at the time was something that I thought was really important. And so the answer to your question, I think, Paul, is decide where your audience are and then be authentic, transparent, and consider a Facebook Live type of event where people get to engage with you as you launch the book and share the challenges, but share the opportunity to get deep into the content of the book as well. That's something that worked really, really well for me.
So with the Facebook Live, how did you actually include the link? Where you put it in the comments every few minutes or so? Did you have it in the description? How did you actually have the link so they could click on it while taking part in your launch party?
Yeah, good question, Paul. The comments is the key there. So I was very capable. I had my wife who was in the room with me. She was across the desk, and she was helping to moderate the comments and the questions and helping me with that. And then every couple of minutes, she would copy and paste the link to the page to buy the book, and we'd remind people to head on over and buy the book.
Well, and having a wingman is absolutely perfect for that because when you're doing any type of webinars or live trainings or Facebook Lives, if you can have someone there to moderate, that means that you can actually focus on the conversation that you're having and not having to look at the comments every few seconds to see if you missed something. So that's such a great strategy having your wife do that, and then she would just call the question over to you. You would answer it, and then right after that, I'm assuming you would put in a call to action. Go, hey, to get a copy, click on this link. Am I correct in that?
Entirely, yeah, that's exactly the case, and we had a deal going for people to buy the paperback copy and a Kindle copy. There was we had a reduced price so they could buy both of them if they chose to, or whichever one they preferred. But we were hoping that people would buy the bundle, which did work out really well. that. But Paul, one other thing about the Facebook Live, and I just remembered, it was actually on a Sunday evening, which is an unusual time, um, but we made it a celebration. So Sunday evening, local time here in Australia, I think it was 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., and we made it a party. We had a little celebration. We had a beer to celebrate it, and a number of people afterwards told me that they too grabbed a drink and sort of took a moment just to relax and sort of join in the launch party, which I think, I don't know, maybe it didn't work for everyone, but I think it helped to bring a relaxed sort of, this is a project rather than a big sell. And for me, that worked quite well, Paul.
Well, that reminds me of episode 216. Steve Sims, he was on the show from Bluefish, and he was talking about he made his event a big party. The difference with his was he actually had it at a bar and was able to get the bar to actually, it was like a sponsorship. Hey, if you guys get a chance, check out episode 216 because it's a really good example, as well as this one, to talk about how you can turn your launch into a party. And the reason I bring this up is we're doing a big launch. I'm doing this project called the Get Published Business Book. And for those that are listening to the show, you can hear the call to action at the end of the show. We give you an invitation to check it out. But long story short, we have 100 authors, not only locally here in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Arlington Metroplex, but also across the world. And then for the ones that are going to be here locally, we're planning on doing a book launch party. And I emphasize the word party because of what you brought up and what Steve brought up. You got to make it fun, and you got to turn it into an event, a big event. And what we're going to do is a big book launch party. We're planning to do it at an area called Texas Live here in Arlington, which is this huge entertainment district. And the reason I bring this up is because you can do that. You could do this at a bar, you could do this at Texas Live, or you could even do it in the comfort of your home and broadcast it on Facebook. Because if you're having fun, you're having a pint, you're having a good time with it, that's going to come across with your audience. So I think it's such a great strategy that you made it fun. And what was the result? You got sales, you got your book to best-selling status for the event. But you had the strategy. You had your wife moderating the comments, putting in the calls to action every few minutes. That was a perfectly implemented game plan.
And Paul, it came together well, and you know what? Not only did we get hundreds of people arriving during the launch, but of course, as the beauty of Facebook Live is that it stayed in people's feeds for hours and days later on as well. And so people in different time zones who weren't on there at the time, they still saw it and end up with many thousands of views over a couple of day period, which was really powerful as well. So it was something that it sort of fell into place, but it did work really nicely for us.
And did you have people in your tribe also share it as well once it was done? So it was also going out via those channels as well?
Entirely, entirely. And Paul, that's a wonderful question because yes, I had people in my tribe sharing it, and yes, I had invited. There were a few key people who were part of the project, but also who were influencers who I'd invited to show up and ask them could they please share it at the start of the hour or so live, so it went into other people's feeds at the very start of the hour to get more people across.
Yeah, I love it because not only did you utilize the Facebook Live, you utilized it correctly. You had everything in place. You had your systems, you had your processes. And that's the biggest thing. Systems are the best thing you can do. And when you had all that stuff together, now you have a blueprint that you could do that for all of your future launches and just take it next level. Because obviously, as you keep doing this, your tribe's going to increase, your phone's going to increase. So it just magnifies everything that you're doing.
Entirely, entirely. It was. I think it was a success for me, Paul, and based upon that experience, I think I can definitely use that model, but do it even better in the future.
Excellent. Well, let's get to the hard questions. So let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Yeah, Paul, this is I've given plenty of thought to this question because it's I'm a big reader, I'm a big consumer of content and more audiobooks these days as well as ebooks and paperback. But I keep coming back to something that's really, really important to me, Paul, and because I've got this view, Paul, and that is that I believe the world needs more great places to work. I believe that we all spend so much time working that we have to find a way for it to be a positive and purposeful part of our lives. and a strong culture in a workplace, whether it's a one-person workplace or a many thousand-person workplace, is something that I think is really important. And so, based upon that Paul, I think the one book that I think I keep coming back to from a professional perspective is a oldie but a goodie called The 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard, which does has a more recent edition. It's called The New 1 Minute Manager. And why that's so important is because it really gave me a framework in the early days of my career as an entrepreneur and as a leader as to how to best engage with, have empathy for, and connect with other people. And the one thing that I think is so powerful from that book that I do my very best to live every day is to catch people doing something right. Because forever, I think the world is catching people doing something wrong and redirecting them or correcting them. But I think the world is a much better place when we spot people doing something great, whether it's at home, whether it's at work, whether it's down the street in our communities, and mentioning it, as because I think that really does inspire people to more greatness.
Yeah, I agree. Versus just talking about areas of opportunity for improvement, talk about the things that they've done right, because that makes such a difference. You know, you never want to focus just on what needs to be improved. Let's focus on what you've done right. Let's focus on all these great things because it's really going to help with morale for both sides.
Entirely, yeah. It's and look, it's Paul. I'm not here to. I don't think we're here to praise people for things that we don't think are important. So I'm not saying that we praise people for stuff that we don't value. But I think it's so important that if we do value something, we mention it. It doesn't have to be big stuff. It can be something very small, very simple, but very, very useful and valuable in your life or in their life as well. And there's nothing that creates more good stuff in the world than momentum. And we can help to create momentum by catching people doing something right.
Absolutely. And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
So Paul, I reckon for me, I'm, I tend to start things, but I haven't been in the habit of finishing them strong. And so there's a quote that I remind myself regularly, and that's to stop dabbling or don't dabble. If I'm going to start, I need to be all in and make sure I focus and get to the finish line. And so, based upon that, the two word quote that I remind myself of, and that I think that's really important for me, and that I think may be useful to others, is don't dabble.
Absolutely. Well, Tristan, I want to thank you for being a guest on this show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Yeah, so Paul, I'm in many places. My home on the web is tristanwhite.com.au. You can also find me on Facebook, facebook.com Tristan J. White. Similarly on Instagram, and you'll also find me on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. But my home on the web, where you can check out the book, download a free chapter if you're interested, to check out a podcast, all that sort of stuff, tristanwhite.com.au, because I am down here in Australia.
Tristan, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your off the journey ahead.
You're welcome, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.